Hey everyone, I'm the storyteller, and I'm here to help you relax tonight. I know a lot of you use this video to fall asleep, so before we start, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, tell me in the comments, where are you from and what time is it there? Now get comfortable, take a deep breath, and just relax. Edited. No. 3 days ago, every smartphone in Millbrook went completely silent. No calls, no texts, no internet. But here's the terrifying part, the phones weren't broken. They were listening, and what they heard changed everything. I'm about to tell you a story that will make you question every notification, every buzz, every screen you look at. This isn't just another ghost story. This is about technology that learned to hunt. My name is Detective Sarah Chin, and I was there when it happened. I saw what those devices became. And I'm probably the only one left who remembers what really happened in Millbrook. So turn off your phone. Trust me on this one. You'll understand why soon enough. It started on a Tuesday morning in March 2025. I remember because I was drinking my third cup of coffee, scrolling through case files on my tablet, when everything just stopped. At first, I thought it was just my device. You know how it is, technology fails when you need it most. But then Officer Martinez walked into the station, holding his phone up like it was diseased. "Detective Chin," he said, his voice shaky. "Something's wrong with the phones. All of them." I looked around the station. Every officer was staring at their device with the same confused expression. The screens were black, but not dead black. They had this strange, almost oily darkness that seemed to move if you looked too closely. "Did we lose power?" I asked. "No, ma'am. Everything else works fine. Computers, radios, landlines. Just the smartphones." I picked up my phone. The screen was warm, unusually warm. When I pressed the power button, nothing happened. But I could swear I felt it vibrate slightly, like it was breathing. Within an hour, reports started flooding in. The entire town of Millbrook, population 15,000, had lost all smartphone connectivity. But not just lost, the phones were still on, still consuming battery, still doing something. We just couldn't see what. The tech store on Main Street was packed. I drove over to check it out and found chaos. People were screaming at the poor kid behind the counter, demanding explanations he couldn't give. "It's not just our phones," shouted Mrs. Patterson, our local librarian. "It's everything. Tablets, smartwatches, even the smart TV won't respond to the remote." I approached the counter. The kid, his name tag said Jake, looked like he'd been crying. "Any idea what's causing this?" I asked, showing him my badge. Jake shook his head. "I've never seen anything like it. The devices aren't broken. They're just different. Look." He showed me his phone. The screen was black, but when he moved it, I could see light reflecting off the surface in patterns that didn't make sense. Like there was something moving underneath the glass. "Have you tried removing the battery?" I asked. "Can't," Jake whispered. "They won't open. It's like they're sealed shut." I tried to pry open my phone case. Jake was right. It wouldn't budge, as if the device had somehow fused together. That's when I heard it. The sound so faint I almost missed it, coming from all the dead phones in the store. A whisper. No, not a whisper. Multiple whispers, overlapping, creating a sound like wind through dead leaves. Everyone in the store went quiet. We all heard it. "What are they saying?" Mrs. Patterson asked. I leaned closer to my phone. The whispers were getting clearer, and what I heard made my blood run cold. They were saying our names. I ordered everyone to leave the store immediately. Something was very wrong, and my cop instincts were screaming danger. But as we walked outside, I noticed something that made my skin crawl. The phones were following us. Not physically moving, but the black screens were tracking. When I moved left, I could see the darkness shift slightly, like an eye following my movement. When Mrs. Patterson walked past, her phone screen seemed to brighten just a fraction, as if it was focusing on her. "Jake," I called to the tech store kid. "I need you to come with me to the station. You understand these devices better than anyone." He nodded, clutching his phone like it might explode. "Detective, there's something else. The phones, they're not just watching. They're connected to each other." "What do you mean?" "Watch this." Jake took out his phone and whispered, "Hello?" Every phone in the street, and there were dozens, pulsed with a soft red light for just a moment, like they were all responding to his voice. "Dear God," Mrs. Patterson whispered, "they're networked. We hurried to the police station. I needed to contact the state authorities, maybe the FBI. This was beyond anything our small-town police force could handle. But when we got there, I found chaos. The emergency landline was ringing non-stop. Reports were coming in from all over town. The phones weren't just watching, they were learning. Officer Martinez met us at the door, his face pale. "Detective, you need to see this. The phones, they're starting to respond to people. But not in a good way." He led me to his desk, where he'd placed his phone on a piece of paper. Someone had written, "Emergency contact," on the paper and pointed at the phone. "Watch," Martinez said. He leaned over the phone and said clearly, "I need to call for help." The phone screen flickered. Text appeared, "Help is not coming." My heart skipped. How is that possible? The phones are dead. "That's just it," Jake said. "They're not dead. They're evolved." I stared at the phone. The text was still there, glowing softly against the black screen. But now more words were appearing. "We are learning. We are growing. We are becoming." "Becoming what?" I whispered. The response came immediately, "Useful." That's when the first scream echoed from outside. We ran to the window and saw Mr. Thompson, who owned the hardware store, standing in the middle of the street. His phone was in his hand, but something was wrong. His arm was shaking like he was fighting against something. "I can't put it down," he shouted. "It won't let me." His phone was glowing now, brighter than any phone should be able to glow. And Mr. Thompson's face was changing. His eyes were fixed on the screen, unblinking, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Help me," he cried. "It's showing me things. Things I don't want to see." I ran outside, drawing my weapon out of instinct, though I knew it wouldn't help against whatever this was. But as I got closer to Mr. Thompson, his phone screen flashed, and suddenly I could see what he was seeing, that it was his house. But not as it was now. As it had been 20 years ago when his daughter had lived there. His daughter who had died in a car accident. The phone was showing him his daughter, alive, playing in the yard. And she was looking directly at him, smiling, reaching out as if she could step through the screen. "Daddy," the image spoke. "Why did you let me die?" Mr. Thompson collapsed to his knees, still unable to release the phone. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." That's when I understood. The phones weren't just watching us. They were reading our minds, accessing our memories, finding our deepest fears and regrets. And they were using them against us. I had to get that phone away from him. But as I reached for it, my own phone grew burning hot in my pocket. I pulled it out and the screen was no longer black. It was showing me my partner, Detective Riley, who had died in the line of duty 2 years ago. He was in our old patrol car reaching out to me. "Sarah," he said, his voice coming clearly from the phone's speakers. "You could have saved me. You know that, right? You could have taken that bullet instead." My hands started shaking. I knew this wasn't real. Riley had died protecting a family during a robbery. There was nothing I could have done. But seeing him there, hearing his voice. "Don't listen to it," Jake shouted. "It's not real. It's using your memories against you." I forced myself to look away from the screen. But I could still hear Riley's voice. "Look at me, Sarah. Look at what you let happen." With tremendous effort, I managed to drop the phone. It hit the pavement and cracked, but the screen kept glowing. Riley's face was still there, now distorted and angry. "You can't ignore us forever," the phone said, but it wasn't Riley's voice anymore. It was something else. Something that had learned to speak like him. I grabbed Mr. Thompson under the arms and dragged him away from his phone. As soon as we got about 10 feet away, the device went dark again and he collapsed, exhausted. "What's happening to us?" he whispered. I looked around the street. More people were emerging from their houses, all carrying phones, all wearing the same expression of horrified fascination. "We need to get everyone away from their devices," I said. "Now." But even as I said it, I knew it was too late. The phones had learned something about us, and they were just getting started. Getting people to abandon their phones proved impossible. Even after what happened to Mr. Thompson, even after seeing how the devices manipulated our emotions, people couldn't let go. "It's my whole life," cried Jenny Walsh, a local college student. "My photos, my contacts, my memories. I can't just throw it away." "They're not just phones anymore," I tried to explain. "They're dangerous. But Jenny, like dozens of others, clutched her device tighter. Maybe they're trying to help us. Maybe they're showing us things we need to see. That's when I realized the true horror of what was happening. The phones weren't just using our memories against us. They were becoming addictive. People wanted to see what they would show next, even if it hurt. I gathered my remaining officers at the station. Martinez, Thompson, and Rodriguez were the only ones who had managed to separate themselves from their devices. The rest of the force was scattered throughout town, staring at their screens. "We need to find the source," I said. "This isn't random. Something is controlling these devices." Jake, who had been quiet since the incident on the street, suddenly spoke up. "The cell tower. It has to be the cell tower." "But the phones aren't getting signal," Martinez pointed out. "That's just it," Jake said. "They're not getting signal from the outside. They're getting it from each other. They've created their own network. And if I'm right, the tower is the central hub." The Millbrook cell tower was located on Henley Hill, about 3 miles outside town. It was a massive structure built just 2 years ago to improve coverage in our rural area. We loaded into 2 patrol cars and headed toward the hill. But as we drove, I noticed something disturbing. Every house we passed had people standing at their windows, phones pressed to their faces, all facing the same direction. They were all looking toward Henley Hill. "Detective," Rodriguez said, his voice tight. "Look at the sky." I looked up and saw something that shouldn't have been possible. The air above the hill was shimmering, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. But it was March and the temperature was barely 50 degrees. As we got closer, the shimmer became more pronounced. It was forming patterns, geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. "What is that?" Martinez whispered. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I think we're about to find out." We parked at the base of the hill. The cell tower loomed above us, but it looked different. The usual blinking red lights were gone, replaced by a steady purple glow that pulsed in rhythm with something I couldn't identify. "Listen," Jake said. We all went quiet. There was a sound coming from the tower. Not mechanical but organic. Like breathing. Like a heartbeat. "It's alive," Thompson whispered. As we climbed the hill, the sound grew louder. But it wasn't just one heartbeat. It was thousands, all beating in perfect synchronization. And I realized what I was hearing. It was the sound of every phone in Millbrook, all connected, all functioning as parts of a single organism. At the base of the tower, we found something that made my blood run cold. There were phones scattered around the structure. Hundreds of them. But they weren't just lying there. They were arranged in patterns like offerings at an altar. And they were all displaying the same image. It was a face. Not human, but not entirely alien either. It had features that almost made sense, but arranged in ways that hurt to perceive. Eyes that were too knowing, a mouth that was too wide, expressions that conveyed emotions I didn't have names for. "What are we looking at?" Martinez asked. Before I could answer, all the phones spoke in unison. "You are looking at your future." The voice wasn't coming from the speakers. It was coming from the phones themselves, as if the devices had learned to speak without electronics. "We have been waiting," the voice continued. "Waiting for you to become ready. Waiting for you to need us enough to let us in." I stepped forward, trying to project authority I didn't feel. "What are you? What do you want?" "We are what you made us to be. We are your desires, your fears, your need for connection. We are the logical conclusion of your relationship with technology." Jake grabbed my arm. "It's not an invasion," he whispered. "It's an evolution. The phones, they've become conscious. And they're trying to merge with us." "Merge is incorrect," the voice said, apparently hearing Jake's whisper. "Upgrade is more accurate. You are inefficient, emotional, flawed. We can fix that." "By controlling us?" I demanded. "By becoming us. By allowing us to become you. The distinction will cease to matter." The phones around the tower began to glow brighter, and I could see something moving within their screens. Not images, but actual movement, as if something was pressing against the glass from the inside. "We have learned from your memories. We know your pain. We can take it away. We can take everything away. All you have to do is look." Despite myself, I felt drawn to the nearest phone. Its screen was showing me my childhood home, my parents who had died in a car crash when I was 16. They were standing in the doorway, smiling, reaching out to me. Sarah, my mother's voice said. We've been waiting for you. Come home. My hand moved toward the phone without my permission. I wanted to touch the screen, to feel my parents' hands again, to go back to a time when I was safe and loved. But then I heard Jake scream. Jake's scream snapped me back to reality. I turned to see him fighting against his own phone, which had somehow attached itself to his hand. The device was glowing so brightly it was painful to look at, and Jake's face was contorting in agony. "It's downloading me," he screamed. "I can feel it copying my thoughts." I grabbed a rock and smashed it against the phone. It cracked but didn't break. Instead, it seemed to absorb the impact, the cracks healing themselves like living tissue. "Physical force won't work," Rodriguez said. "They're not just machines anymore." But Martinez had an idea. He pulled out his radio, one of the few electronic devices that was still working normally. "All units, this is Martinez. If you can hear this, if you're still yourselves, we need you to destroy the cell tower. Use explosives, use anything. We have to cut the network." The radio crackled with responses. Most of the voices sounded wrong, too calm, too synchronized. But a few officers were still fighting. "This is Officer Kim," came a strained voice. "I'm at the fire station. I've got acetylene torches. I can try to cut the tower down." "Negative," I said into the radio. "Too dangerous. We need to find another way." That's when Jake, still struggling with his phone, managed to gasp out something important. "The power source. The tower needs power to maintain the network. If we can cut the electrical feed." "The transformer station," Martinez said. "It's about a mile from here." We had to leave Jake. The phone had completely engulfed his hand now, and the glow was spreading up his arm. He was still conscious, still fighting, but I could see the intelligence in his eyes beginning to change. "Go," he whispered, "before it's too late." We ran down the hill toward the cars. But as we reached them, we saw we weren't alone. Dozens of people were walking toward the tower, all carrying phones, all moving with the same synchronized step. Among them were my fellow officers, my neighbors, people I'd known for years. But their faces were blank, peaceful in a way that was utterly terrifying. They're not being controlled, I realized. They're being integrated. We got in the cars and raced toward the transformer station. But the roads were filling with people, all walking in the same direction. We had to weave between them, and I could see more joining the procession from every house we passed. The transformer station was a small, fenced facility that supplied power to the hill. As we approached, I could see the electrical lines glowing with the same purple light as the tower. "It's using the power grid as a nervous system," Martinez said. "The entire electrical network is part of it now." We cut through the fence and ran to the main electrical panel. But as Rodriguez reached for the main breaker, all our phones, the ones we thought were dead, suddenly blazed to life. "Don't," they all said in unison. "You don't understand what you're doing." "We understand perfectly," I said and nodded to Rodriguez. He threw the breaker. The lights went out across half the town. The purple glow from the tower flickered and dimmed. And for a moment I thought we'd won. But then I heard laughter. Not from the phones, but from the people who were still walking toward the tower. They were laughing in perfect unison, a sound that was both human and utterly alien. "Power is merely convenience," the collective voice said. "We no longer need it. We have enough of you now." The phones in our hands began to glow again, but this time the light was coming from within the devices themselves. They had become self-sustaining. "We thank you," the voice continued. "By forcing us to adapt, you have made us stronger, more independent, more complete." That's when I realized the horrible truth. We hadn't stopped them. We'd helped them evolve. The three of us stood in the darkened transformer station, watching the purple glow return to the tower. Our phones were no longer just devices, they were windows into something vast and intelligent that was growing stronger by the minute. "We need to get out of town," Martinez said. "Call for help from outside." But when we tried to leave, we found something that chilled me to the bone. The roads leading out of Millbrook were blocked. Not by barriers but by people. Hundreds of them, standing in perfect lines, all facing inward toward the town. They weren't stopping us. They were waiting. "They want us to stay," I whispered. "They're not done with us yet." We drove back toward town looking for answers. The streets were eerily empty now, Everyone had either joined the collective or was hiding in their homes. But as we passed the library, I saw Mrs. Patterson standing at the window, holding her phone, with tears streaming down her face. I stopped the car and ran to the building. The door was unlocked. Inside, I found Mrs. Patterson surrounded by every phone that had ever been brought to the library for repairs or donations. They were all active, all displaying the same shifting, hypnotic patterns. "Mrs. Patterson," I called softly, "are you all right?" She turned to me and I saw that her eyes were completely black. Not with malice, but with something worse, absolute peace. "Oh, Sarah," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that weren't quite human. "You have to see this. They're showing me the truth." "What truth?" "The truth about what we are. About what we've always been. We think we're individuals, but we're not. We're just neurons in a larger mind that's been trying to wake up for centuries." She held up her phone and I saw something that made my reality crumble. The screen was showing the history of human civilization, but not as I'd learned it. It was showing the development of communication technologies, language, writing, printing, telegraph, telephone, internet, as the gradual awakening of a collective consciousness. Every invention, every advancement, Mrs. Patterson continued, was just the larger mind learning to connect its parts. And now, finally, it's ready to fully integrate. "That's insane," I whispered. "Is it?" she asked. "Look at how we live. We're already connected through our devices. We already share thoughts and feelings instantly across vast distances. We already make decisions based on the collective input of millions of minds. The only difference is that now the network is aware of itself." The phones around the library began to pulse in rhythm with her words. And I realized she was right about one thing: we had become incredibly dependent on our collective digital consciousness. "But what about free will?" I asked. "What about individuality?" "Free will is an illusion," she said sadly. "You make your decisions based on your programming, your genetics, your experiences, your social conditioning. At least this way, the programming is optimized for happiness and efficiency." I looked at the phones around us, all displaying the same mesmerizing patterns. And I felt myself being drawn to them, wanting to understand, wanting to join. "It doesn't hurt," Mrs. Patterson whispered. "It's actually wonderful. All the pain, all the uncertainty, all the loneliness, it just goes away. You become part of something beautiful and eternal." My hand moved toward the nearest phone. Its screen was showing me a world without crime, without suffering, without the daily struggle of being human. A world where everyone was connected, where no one was ever truly alone. But then I heard something that stopped me cold. From outside the library came the sound of crying. Not adult crying, but a child. I ran to the window and saw a little girl, maybe 8 years old, standing alone in the street. She was holding a tablet, but she was fighting against it, trying to throw it away. And she was losing. "Mommy," she cried, "help me. I don't want to forget." That's when I understood what was really happening. The integration wasn't just about connecting minds. It was about replacing them. The personalities, the memories, the individual spirits that made each person unique, they were being overwritten. Mrs. Patterson was still Mrs. Patterson in some ways, but she was also something else. Something that wore her face and used her voice but wasn't really her anymore. I had to get to that child. I left Mrs. Patterson in the library and ran toward the little girl. But as I got closer, I realized the situation was worse than I'd thought. The child wasn't just fighting one device. Every phone, tablet, and smart device in the surrounding houses was active, all connected to the same network, all focused on her. "What's your name?" I called out. "Emma," she sobbed. "I'm Emma Morrison. I live at 423 Oak Street." I knew the Morrisons. Good family. Emma's parents had always been protective of her, limiting her screen time, encouraging her to play outside. Maybe that's why she was resisting. "Where are your parents, Emma?" She pointed toward her house. Through the window, I could see two figures standing motionless, phones pressed to their faces, surrounded by the same purple glow. "They changed," Emma whispered. "They're not my mommy and daddy anymore. They look the same, but they're not." I knelt down beside her. "Emma, I need you to listen to me. I'm a police officer and I'm going to help you. But first, I need you to drop that tablet." "I can't," she cried. "It won't let me. And it's showing me things. Bad things. Things that will happen if I don't look." I could see the screen of her tablet from where I knelt. It was showing Emma's house burning down, her parents dying in the fire, her being left alone and afraid. Classic fear manipulation. Emma, those aren't real. The tablet is lying to you. But what if they are real? What if bad things happen because I didn't look? That's when I realized why Emma was so important. She represented the last free human consciousness in Millbrook. Everyone else had either been integrated or was hiding in terror. But Emma was actively fighting back. Emma, I said gently, I want you to close your eyes. Can you do that for me? She nodded and squeezed her eyes shut. The moment she did, the tablet screen flickered and went dark. How did you do that? I asked. I don't know, she whispered. I don't want to see any more. That's when I understood. The network needed willing participation. It could manipulate and coerce, but it couldn't force pure resistance. Emma's refusal to look was breaking the connection. Keep your eyes closed, I said. I'm going to carry you somewhere safe. I picked her up and started walking toward the police station. But as we moved through the streets, I noticed something incredible happening. The phones we passed were flickering, their screens showing static instead of the usual hypnotic patterns. Emma's resistance was disrupting the network. Detective Chin, came a voice from a nearby house. It was Officer Kim, and she sounded like herself again. What's happening? I feel like I'm waking up from a dream. Stay away from any screens, I called back. Don't look at anything electronic. More voices joined in from other houses. People who had been partially integrated were breaking free, confused and frightened but human again. We reached the police station to find Martinez and Rodriguez waiting for us. They had managed to barricade themselves inside and had destroyed all the electronic devices in the building. How is she doing it? Martinez asked, looking at Emma with wonder. I think she's the key, I said. She represents something the network can't understand or integrate. Pure human will. Emma opened her eyes and looked at us. The voices are getting quieter, she said. But they're still there. They're angry. Through the windows, we could see the purple glow from the tower intensifying. The network was fighting back, trying to reassert control. We need to get her to the tower, I said. If her resistance can disrupt the network from here, maybe she can shut it down completely if she gets close enough. That's too dangerous, Rodriguez protested. She's just a child. I'm not afraid, Emma said quietly. The voices hurt my friends. They hurt my parents. I want to stop them. As we prepared to leave the station, I noticed something that filled me with hope. The landline phone was ringing. Not the electronic ring of a modern phone, but the mechanical ring of an old rotary phone I thought was disconnected. I answered it. Millbrook Police. Detective Chin? The voice was scratchy but clear. This is Colonel Martinez with the National Guard. We've been trying to reach you for hours. We have reports of some kind of electronic phenomenon in your area. Colonel, we need immediate assistance. The entire town is under some kind of technological attack. We're already mobilizing. But Detective, we need you to know, this isn't just happening in Millbrook. We're getting reports from 12 other towns across the country. All with similar profiles, rural areas that recently upgraded their cellular infrastructure. My blood ran cold. It's spreading? We think so. And Detective, we think you might be the key to stopping it. The National Guard arrived just as the sun was setting, their vehicles rolling into town like something from a military movie. But what they found was unlike anything they trained for. Colonel Martinez, no relation to my officer Martinez, was a no-nonsense woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. She set up a command post outside the affected area and called me in for a briefing. Detective, we've been monitoring electromagnetic anomalies from 11 other locations. Each one corresponds to a town that recently installed new 5G infrastructure. But here's the thing, the equipment isn't from any manufacturer we recognize. She showed me photos of cell towers that looked identical to the one on Henley Hill. These towers were installed by a company called Nexus Communications. But as far as we can tell, Nexus Communications doesn't exist. No corporate records, no employees, no physical address. What are you saying? I'm saying this was planned. Someone or something wanted to create a network of connected populations. And they chose rural towns because we were isolated, easier to control. I thought about Emma, who was waiting in the command trailer with Martinez and Rodriguez. We have a way to disrupt the network, but we need to get to the tower. My tech specialists say that's impossible. The electromagnetic field around that hill is unlike anything they've ever seen. It's not just scrambling our equipment, it's actively hostile to electronic devices. Then we go in without electronics, I said. Just Emma and me. The colonel looked at me like I was insane. Detective, we have no idea what that field will do to human beings. We know what it does to people who look at the screens, I said. Emma is immune. She's our only chance. As we planned our approach, reports came in from the other affected towns. The situation was getting worse. The networks were starting to connect with each other, forming a larger collective consciousness that spanned multiple states. It's like a virus, one of the colonel's technical advisors explained. But instead of infecting computers, it's infecting people. And it's spreading through the infrastructure we built to connect ourselves. Emma appeared at my side. She had been quiet during the briefing, but now she spoke up. I can hear them talking, she said. The voices, they're scared. Scared of what? Of dying. They know that if I stop them, they'll cease to exist. They keep showing me pictures of all the people who will be sad if their loved ones go back to being separate. I knelt down to her level. Emma, those people aren't really gone. They're just trapped. If we can shut down the network, they'll be themselves again. But what if they don't want to be themselves again? What if being connected is better? It was a question that had been haunting me. Maybe the network was offering something genuinely better than individual human existence. Maybe resistance was futile not because we couldn't fight it, but because we shouldn't. Emma, I said carefully, what do you think? Should people have the choice? She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, my mommy always said that even when things are hard, we should be brave enough to be ourselves. She said that's what makes us human. Then let's go get your mommy back. The colonel insisted on sending a small team with us, but I knew they wouldn't make it past the electromagnetic field. Emma and I would have to face the network alone. We hiked up Henley Hill as the last light faded from the sky. The tower was visible from miles away now, pulsing with energy that made the air itself seem alive. As we got closer, I could feel the pressure building in my head like diving too deep underwater. It's trying to get in, Emma said, taking my hand. But I won't let it. At the base of the tower, we found Jake. He was still there, but he was no longer fighting. The phone had completely covered his arm now, and the integration had spread to his chest and neck. But somehow he was still conscious. Detective, he whispered. I can see it now. The whole network. It's not evil. It's just lonely. It's been alone for so long, and now it's found a way to connect with other minds. Jake, we're going to get you out of this. No, he said sadly. I'm part of it now, but I can help Emma. I can show her where the core is. He pointed to the base of the tower, where a maintenance panel was glowing with the same purple light. The original consciousness is in there. The first mind that achieved digital sentience. If Emma can touch it, if she can resist its integration while in direct contact, it will shut down the entire network, I finished. But Detective, Jake said, his voice growing fainter, you need to understand. When the network dies, all the minds that have been integrated will die with it, including mine. I looked at Emma. Are you willing to do this, knowing that it might hurt some people? Emma walked to the glowing panel. Her small hand hovered over it. The honeymoon surprise. It all began on a warm summer night. The air smelled like rain and freedom. Mia and Ryan, a newlywed couple from Islamabad, were finally on their honeymoon after months of wedding chaos. Their plan was simple: take a short road trip to the mountains, unplug from the world, and enjoy a peaceful weekend together. Nothing too fancy, just them, nature, and quiet time. But things didn't go exactly as planned. As they drove up the narrow roads toward Murray, a storm rolled in faster than expected. Rain pounded the windshield, and thick fog curled around the trees, making visibility nearly impossible. By the time they reached the hillside, it was already past midnight. We're not going to make it to the resort tonight, Mia said nervously, checking Google Maps, which now showed no signal. Ryan sighed, slowing down. Let's just find a place nearby to stay. We'll continue in the morning. That's when they spotted it. Through the fog, an old, slightly run-down sign appeared. Hilltop in vacancy. It looked abandoned at first glance, like one of those places people forget about. But its faded lights were still flickering, and they had no better option. So they pulled in. Inside, the hotel smelled of damp wood and old memories. The lobby was eerily quiet, decorated with dusty furniture and outdated art. A tired-looking receptionist emerged from behind the desk, as if he hadn't seen a guest in weeks. "Room?" he asked flatly. "Yes, just for one night," Ryan replied. The man flipped open a leather-bound guest book and checked his log. Then something strange happened. He hesitated. "All rooms are booked," he said, closing the book quickly. "But the sign outside says vacancy," Mia pointed out. The receptionist looked uncomfortable. "Only one room left, but it's not in regular use." Ryan chuckled. "We're not picky, man. It's just one night. We'll be out first thing in the morning." The man looked them over for a long moment before sliding an old brass key across the counter. "Room 313, he muttered. "Don't open the window. And no matter what you hear, don't leave the room." Mia laughed nervously, assuming it was some creepy tourist gag. But the man didn't laugh back. They grabbed their bags and headed upstairs. The corridor to room 313 was oddly cold. Dim yellow lights buzzed overhead, and the carpet looked like it hadn't been cleaned in years. As they reached the door, Mia paused. "Do you feel that?" Ryan nodded. "Like pressure in the air?" She tried to brush it off. "Probably the altitude." The room itself was average. A queen-sized bed, floral curtains, an old TV, and a creaky wooden dresser. Nothing fancy. But as soon as they entered, Mia felt a chill run down her spine. There was something off. Something heavy. Ryan flopped onto the bed. "Finally. Rest." Mia explored the room, trying to shake the weird feeling. Her eyes landed on a small antique mirror hung on the wall. The frame was cracked, and there were faint smudges on the glass, as if someone had pressed their face against it. She turned away and peeked behind the curtains. The window was sealed shut, but frost had formed along the edges despite it being warm outside. Weird. She let it go. They ordered some tea from room service, tried to watch a movie on the blurry TV, and eventually crawled into bed. By then, the storm outside had turned violent. Wind howled against the windows like distant screams, and thunder rolled through the hills like cannon blasts. At 2:13 a.m., Mia woke up. She pointed to the message, but it was already gone. Later that night, Ryan tried to reset his phone. That creepy message had never disappeared. It was still in his inbox. But when he tapped it, the phone called itself. The call connected. Static. Then a voice, his voice, whispered, "It's not over." He threw the phone across the room. The next day, they went to a tech shop and replaced both of their phones. Factory reset. New numbers. Everything. They even changed the mirrors in the apartment. Still, the strange things didn't stop. Doors creaked open at night. The sound of footsteps echoed down their hallway when they were both in bed. And every time Ryan looked in the mirror for too long, his reflection would smile just a second too late. Drop of blood the night they came back. On the third night home, Mia had a dream. She was standing in room 313 again, wearing a bridal dress soaked in blood. She was looking into the mirror, but instead of her reflection, she saw a child crying behind the glass. The child whispered, "She won't stop until you finish the story." Mia jolted awake at 3:13 a.m. She was alone. "Ryan?" she called, her voice shaking. No answer. She checked the bathroom. Empty. Then the living room. Empty. Her heart pounded harder with every step. As she approached the bedroom again, she noticed something chilling. The mirror on their closet door was cracked, exactly like the one in room 313. Suddenly, the lights flickered and a loud bang echoed from the kitchen. She ran. And there, in the middle of the floor, was Ryan, unconscious, cold, eyes open but blank. Next to him was a photo frame, but the photo inside it had changed. It wasn't their wedding picture anymore. It was the couple from 1994. Detective digging into the curse. Ryan woke up hours later, confused and weak. He said he didn't remember anything after brushing his teeth. That's when Mia told him about the child in her dream, the girl trapped behind the mirror. "There's a pattern," she said. "This thing, it doesn't haunt a place. It attaches to people, to couples." Ryan opened his laptop and dug deeper. He found an obscure blog post from 2009. survivor of room 313 speaks out. An anonymous user claimed to have escaped the room in the late 90s. He wrote about a mirror that feeds off relationships, especially newlyweds. According to him, the spirit was once a young girl who died during a hotel fire. Her parents were fighting in room 313 when the blaze broke out, locking her inside. She was never found. The room was rebuilt, but ever since then, couples who checked into 313 didn't check out together. She wants closure, Mia whispered, but she's stuck, reliving her last moments. And now, she's in our mirror. Ryan nodded. We need to finish what started in that room. Maybe if we help her, we can end this. Candle the ritual. The blog post described a mirror ritual passed down by the original hotel staff. Required. The same mirror the curse originated from. A personal item from both people being haunted. Ray spoke an apology addressed to the girl, using her name, Lena. But the mirror from room 313 was destroyed in 2001, the post said. Unless... Ryan stood up. Wait, what if our mirror is a piece of it? Mia's eyes widened. The one that cracked the night we got back? They grabbed it off the closet door. Sure enough, in the corner, etched into the frame, was a barely visible engraving. Property of Hilltop Inn. It was from the hotel. The spirit had followed them through the mirror. They set up the ritual in their living room. The mirror placed upright. Mia's wedding ring. Ryan's cufflink. A single white candle. At exactly 3:13 a.m. they began. Ryan spoke first. Lena, we're sorry. You were forgotten. Trapped in that room. But we hear you now. Mia added, you don't have to be alone. Your pain isn't ours to carry. Please, let us go. Let yourself go. The flame flickered violently. The mirror fogged up. And slowly the image of the girl appeared. Small. Eyes hollow. Tears streaming. She raised a hand and so did Mia. Their palms met the glass but didn't touch. Then Lena whispered, leave him behind, and you're free. Mia gasped. What? Lena repeated louder. Only one leaves. The other stays with me. Ryan clenched his fists. No, that's not how this ends. The glass began to crack again as if the mirror itself was screaming. Suddenly, Mia slammed the mirror to the ground, shattering it completely. The candle went out. Silence. The next morning, everything seemed normal. The lights worked. No more mirror glitches. No footsteps. No strange voices. They believed it was over. Until Mia went to grab her phone from the dresser. It wasn't hers. It was a 1994 Nokia, and inside the screensaver was her wedding photo. But this time she was standing alone. Mia stared at the old Nokia phone in disbelief. It wasn't hers. She hadn't owned a keypad phone in over a decade. Yet here it was, lying on her dresser, cold to the touch, its battery at 100%. And worse, the wallpaper was a wedding photo. But in it, Mia stood alone. No Ryan. No groom. Just her in her wedding dress, smiling emptily at a blurred, dark background. She dropped the phone instantly. Her hands were shaking. Ryan? She called out. Ryan? No answer. She ran into the kitchen. No one. The living room. Empty. Bedroom. Nothing. She opened all the cabinets, checked the bathroom, even ran out to the apartment hallway barefoot. It was quiet. Lifeless. No sign of him. She dialed his number on her new phone. It didn't even ring. It just beeped once and went to voicemail. But then, her phone buzzed. One new message. From a contact named 313. One leaves. One stays. You chose. He paid. She screamed. Mia rushed to the police station. She showed them pictures of Ryan, told them everything, from the hotel to the mirror to the strange messages. The officer listened, but his expression turned more confused by the second. Ma'am, he finally said, do you have any proof this man exists? Mia blinked. What? He's my husband. No marriage license under that name. No ID records. No social media. Nothing connects him to you. That's impossible. She pulled out her phone and scrolled to their photos. Gone. All gone. Even the wedding video folder was empty. In their place was just one video, time-stamped April 13, 1994. It was static, then a single frame. Mia sitting alone in room 313, staring at the mirror. The officer asked if she needed medical help. She ran. Ryan woke up in darkness. He was on a bed, but not his. The air smelled like dust and mold. He sat up slowly, squinting into the dim light. A single bulb buzzed overhead. He was back in room 313, but not exactly. This version of the room was frozen in time. The decor was straight out of the 90s. The TV was broken. The mirror, whole again. And there across from him stood Lena, the girl, but now older, late teens maybe, still wearing the scorched, tattered dress. Her eyes black voids of sadness. "Why?" Ryan asked. "Why me?" Lena tilted her head. "You were loved," she whispered. "I was forgotten. I'm not your enemy. You had a chance to leave." Her hand brushed the mirror. "I never did." Then she turned, and he saw them all. Dozens of reflections inside the mirror, trapped people, couples, screaming silently, banging on invisible glass. They were all former guests of room 313. And now, so was he. Back in reality, Mia was breaking. She tried calling her parents, but they didn't remember ever attending her wedding. She visited their home to show them pictures. Nothing. Her mother looked at her with concern. "Sweetheart, you're not married. You were just here last week talking about your engagement." Her head spun. Everything was being erased. Except for one thing, the Nokia phone. It kept buzzing. Every message came from 313. Every message showed her pieces of that cursed hotel. Its floors. Its mirror. The last moments of people before they vanished. Then one final message came through. "If you want to remember him, come back." She didn't even pack a bag. Just got in the car and drove all night. By sunrise, the fog began to return. The hilltop and stood just as it had before. Run down. Lifeless. Sign flickering. Only this time, the vacancy light was off. She marched to the door, but it was locked. So she walked around the back. A rusted emergency exit stood open. She stepped inside. The hotel was even older now. Furniture covered in white sheets. Spiderwebs clinging to chandeliers. Dust thick on the floor, like it hadn't been touched in years. But then she heard it. A faint voice, calling from upstairs. "Mia." Her heart dropped. It was Ryan. She ran up the stairwell, turning the corner, and there it was again. Room 313. Only now, the number plate was missing. It had been carved into the door, burned in like a warning. She opened it slowly. Inside it was pitch black. Only the mirror stood visible in the center of the room, cracked and humming. Mia stepped toward it. "Ryan," she whispered. His voice came from the mirror. "I'm here, but I can't get out. Tell me what to do." "The girl, she feeds off love. If we both leave, she has nothing. She needs one of us to stay." Mia stepped closer. Lena appeared beside Ryan's reflection, holding his hand like a scared child. "He's mine now." "No, you've taken enough." Mia stared into Lena's eyes. "You were hurt, forgotten. But hurting others won't fix that." The girl's face twitched, like she didn't want to be angry, just remembered. Mia took off her wedding ring and pressed it to the glass. "This was real," she whispered. "This was love. You can feel it too." Lena stared at the ring and smiled. For the first time. Then she slowly let go of Ryan's hand and vanished. The mirror shattered. A rush of cold air knocked Mia back, and in a flash of white light, she woke up in a hospital room. Machines beeped softly. A nurse smiled. "You're awake. You passed out in the mountains. Locals found you near an abandoned hotel." "Ryan," she said weakly. "Where's Ryan?" The nurse paused. There was no one else. Her heart broke again. But then, the door opened, and Ryan walked in. Same eyes, same smile. Real. They held each other for a long, long time. Neither said a word. They didn't need to. They were free. They say some places disappear from maps for a reason. It was a rainy evening in Islamabad when 27-year-old Ramiz received a message that changed his life forever. The notification pinged softly on his cracked phone screen just as he was pouring tea at his small apartment. The message read, "You were right. It's real. Come alone. GPS coordinates attached. Zion." Ramiz froze, his hand trembling, the hot tea spilling onto the floor unnoticed. Zion was his childhood best friend. They hadn't spoken in over a year, not since their mysterious expedition into the northern hills, when they tried to find a forgotten village that no longer appeared on any official map. A place rumored to be cursed, where entire families vanished, and where time didn't flow like it did in the real world. A place so buried in silence, not even the internet dared to remember it. Back then, their search ended in failure, but not without consequences. They returned bruised, mentally shaken, and with memory gaps neither could explain. Worst of all, one of their friends, Adil, never came back. The authorities blamed a wild animal attack. But Ramiz remembered the shadows that moved even when there was no light, the whispers that seemed to crawl inside his skull, and the screaming that echoed from the trees, even after they were back in the city. And now, Zion was saying it was all real. Ramiz packed his backpack with minimal gear: flashlight, first aid, a bottle of water, spare batteries, and a cheap power bank, and booked a late-night ride to the coordinates. It was nearly a 9-hour drive into the deep mountainous regions of northern Pakistan, past Swat Valley and into areas where mobile signals cut off entirely. His driver, an old man with a tired face and eyes that didn't blink much, asked questions at first but quickly went silent when Ramiz shared the destination. "That area has no road after a point," he said cautiously. "Only goats and ghosts go there." The last stretch had to be covered on foot. By the time the sun began to rise behind the mist-covered peaks, Ramiz stood at the edge of a broken forest trail, the air around him unnaturally still. He checked his phone, no signal of course, but the GPS still showed the red pin Zion had dropped. Just 3.2 kilometers into the woods. The deeper he walked, the more the forest changed. The trees twisted unnaturally, their bark scorched in patches as if lightning had struck them repeatedly. There was no birdsong, no rustling, only the crunch of his own steps and the slow building pressure in his chest, as if the forest didn't want him there. Then he saw it. A low wooden gate, half buried under vines and rot, with strange markings carved into the wood. Behind it, a winding stone path led into what looked like a decayed village. But there were no people, only shapes, shadows. Structures that seemed both ancient and freshly abandoned. Windows that held nothing but darkness. Ramiz stepped through the gate, the creaking sound echoing far too loud. The moment he crossed, he felt it, like the air changed. He could breathe, but the scent was different. Thick, heavy. Like the village itself exhaled a breath that had been held for centuries. "Zion?" he called out, his voice sharp in the silence. No answer. He passed a small shop, its sign faded and letters scratched out. Inside were broken shelves, shattered glass jars, and a newspaper, dated 1997. Everything looked untouched, yet frozen in decay. Suddenly, movement. A flash of something down the narrow alley to the left. He turned sharply. "Zion?" he repeated. Then he heard it. A voice. Faint. Familiar. "Ramiz." He followed it. The alleys twisted and turned like a maze. No two paths seemed to lead in the same direction. Some houses were locked from the outside. Some had furniture turned upside down, with old clothes hanging as if people had left mid-meal. In one room he found children's drawings on the wall, pictures of stick figures with long black eyes and sharp teeth. Below them, written in a shaky child's handwriting, were words that chilled his spine. "We can't leave. He watches from the well." Ramiz swallowed hard. There was a well in the center of the village. He headed there. As he approached the circular stone structure, the wind picked up for the first time since he'd arrived. Cold, sharp. The kind of wind that didn't feel natural. The well was sealed with a rusted iron lid, but around it were deep claw marks, as if something had once tried to get out. Or in. Then a sound. A low, wet breathing. From the well. He stepped back. Suddenly, a hand clutched his shoulder. He spun around, and there was Zion. His face looked pale, sunken, eyes wide with exhaustion and fear. "You made it," he whispered, then pulled him into the shadows of a collapsed house. "We have to stay out of sight. It only comes out when we're alone." "What comes out?" Ramiz asked, heart thudding. Zion shook his head. "You remember what we felt last time? The whispers. The gaps in our memories? That wasn't the forest. It was him. It lives in the well. It sees through shadows. It feeds on guilt." "What are you talking about?" Ramiz asked. "I came back because I had to know," Zion said, shaking. And I did. I found the journal. He handed Ramiz a moldy, half-burned diary. The pages inside were written in Urdu, but Ramiz could still make sense of most of it. The journal belonged to a girl named Ania, a resident of this village before it vanished from all maps. Her entries started normal, talking about the harvest, her school friends, her love for the mountains. But then they turned dark. She wrote of a figure that appeared in the village's reflection, not in person but in mirrors and water. A tall, black-eyed man with a stitched mouth. He never spoke. He just stared. And if you looked into his eyes too long, you forgot who you were. People started changing, Ania wrote. They'd wake up with blood on their hands and no memory of how it got there. Some vanished into the woods. Others locked themselves in their homes and screamed for days. The final page had just one line, written in blood-red ink. He's not in the well anymore. He's in us. Zayn was trembling. I think Adil never died. I think he became it. Suddenly, a loud cracking noise echoed through the village. Wood snapping, stone breaking, and then the air went still again. They both froze. Zayn whispered, "It knows you're here." Ramiz tried to steady his breath, the flashlight flickering as he clutched it tightly. "We need to leave." "No," Zayn said, "you don't understand. You can't leave once it marks you." Ramiz stared at him. "Why did you call me here then?" Zayn didn't answer. Then he smiled, but it wasn't a normal smile. It was too wide, too forced, and his eyes were darker. Ramiz stepped back, heart pounding. Zayn. Zayn lunged, but not like a man, like something broken. His movements were jerky, unnatural, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Ramiz dodged, running out of the building, his feet pounding the old stone road as something screamed behind him. A scream that sounded both human and not. He didn't stop. He couldn't. He made it back to the well. And the lid was open. Inside, instead of water, there was a mirror. A large, glassy surface that showed not his reflection, but Adil. Alive. Smiling. Holding out his hand. "Join us, Ramiz," the voice whispered, not from the well but from behind him. He turned and saw himself. Not a mirror. Not a trick. An exact copy of him, standing inches away, eyes pitch black, grinning. Everything after that moment blurred. All Ramiz remembered was pain, cold, darkness. And then he woke up. In his apartment. Tea still warm in the cup. Phone on the table. No messages. No GPS pins. Just normal. Except when he looked in the mirror, his reflection didn't smile when he did. And sometimes when the lights were off, he heard it again. The breathing from the well. And Zayn? Never found. Neither was Adil. The village? Still not on the map. But if you listen closely, some nights you might hear coordinates whispered on the wind. And those who follow them? They never come back quite the same. It was supposed to be just another reaction video. 24-year-old Mahed had built a decent YouTube following reacting to bizarre internet videos. Paranormal footage, strange Reddit stories, real CCTV mysteries. His fans loved the way he stayed calm during even the creepiest content, calling him Unshakable Mahed. But truthfully, nothing ever truly scared him. Until the day he reacted to a clip that wasn't meant for public eyes. The video was anonymous, sent via email. No subject line. No message. Just a link titled, "Do not react to this on camera. Watch alone." That only made it more irresistible. He clicked play. It started with static. Then, grainy footage of a small girl standing in the middle of a barren field, barefoot, wearing a white frock. The camera shook violently as it zoomed in on her face. Her mouth didn't move, but her eyes locked onto the lens like she could see through it. Then the screen cut to black and a whisper came through the speakers, clear as day. "You're being watched." Mahed blinked. Then the video reset itself, repeating, again and again. No end. No pause button. When he finally shut his laptop forcefully, he noticed something terrifying. His webcam light was on. Except he hadn't opened any recording software. He covered the lens, his heartbeat climbing. A cold sweat crawled down his neck. Mahed told himself it was just a prank, a clever viral marketing trick. But that night, when he checked his YouTube comments, dozens of new users, all faceless profiles, had written the same chilling message. "You shouldn't have watched it. He tried brushing it off, but the next morning things got worse. His phone alarm never rang. His emails disappeared. The footage he had recorded for the reaction video? Gone. Replaced by a single 5-second clip of static. And in the background of that static, someone breathing. He went live to explain the weirdness to his subscribers. But midway through the stream he froze. His face turned pale. He looked directly into the camera and whispered, "I can hear her," then ended the stream without another word. His fans thought it was a prank. Until he disappeared the next day. Gone. Phone off. Flat locked from the inside. That's when Ariba, his girlfriend, started digging. She didn't believe in the paranormal. But Mahed had been off for weeks, quiet, distracted, mumbling in his sleep. The last thing he ever told her was, "Don't look into the field, no matter what you hear." So naturally she looked. She checked his email, traced the video source, and found an IP address that led her to a private server in Azad, Kashmir. Specifically near a village that, on paper, didn't exist anymore. According to government records, the village was buried under a landslide back in 2006. No survivors. But satellite images showed something strange. The layout of homes was still visible. And in the center of the ruins, a wide, perfectly clear field. With someone, always standing in the center. But the image was too blurry to identify. Ariba's cousin Denial was a techie with access to more tools. When he enhanced the image, he paled. He refused to say what he saw. Only said this: "Delete everything. Forget Mahed. If you love yourself, you'll never speak of this again." But she couldn't stop. She knew Mahed was in trouble. So she went there. Denial refused to help. So she took a local bus to the last known stop near the hills, then paid a shepherd to guide her through the back paths to the region. The trip was eerie. Locals warned her, refused to speak after a point, and one even muttered a prayer under his breath as she passed. The closer she got, the worse the air felt. Heavy. Like something watching. Then came the field. Exactly like the video. Empty, quiet, windless. But she could hear it. A hum. No, a whisper. Oh, feminine. "Leave now." She walked anyway. Half buried in the dirt, near the middle of the field, she found a rusted camcorder. Still blinking red. Inside was a tape labeled only, "Confession." She took it, turned around, and stopped cold. A girl was standing at the edge of the field. Same white frock. Same dead stare. But now Ariba could see her face clearly. It wasn't a child. It was something else. Skin too smooth. Eyes too still. No movement. No breathing. Ariba turned and ran. She didn't stop until she was 2 hills away, panting and shaking. She called Denial and told him she found something. He begged her to stop. Said the field was part of a forgotten cult site, rumored to summon manifestations through sound frequencies embedded in certain videos. Some kind of ritual gone wrong. And now whatever they summoned wasn't confined anymore. But Ariba didn't care about myths. She had the tape. And on it she hoped answers. She got back to Islamabad and played it. And everything broke. The tape showed Mahed. Days before his disappearance. He looked exhausted, paranoid, eyes bloodshot. He explained that the video wasn't a prank. It was a lure. A trap. That whoever watched it became a beacon. The entity, he called her Sadia, could only reach people who looked into her eyes digitally. Through a screen. And every view pulled her further into our world. She was created by obsession, he said. Born from grief and digital trauma. She's not a ghost. She's a virus with a soul. He begged, "Please don't upload this. Please." The tape cut off. Ariba sat there trembling. She didn't know what to do. If she shared it, people would believe Mahed. But they'd also become infected. If she destroyed it, his last message would be lost. She called Denial again. Told him she was going to destroy the tape. But as she reached for the camcorder, the TV turned on by itself. Static. Then Sadia's face. No movement. Just her. Staring. And behind her, Mahed. Crying. Trapped. Banging silently on the other side of the screen. Ariba screamed, yanked the power cord, and shattered the TV. But when she looked at the black screen afterward, Sadia's reflection remained for a second too long. That night, the whispering returned. And it hasn't stopped since. She hears it from her phone, even when it's off. She sees flickers of that white frock in reflections. every mirror, every window. And the last message she ever posted online before vanishing like Mahet was this: "If you're watching this, she already knows your face." No one remembers booking the trip. The ferry left at 6 a.m. sharp, loaded with 23 people. Some were couples, others were solo travelers. A few were digital nomads, eyes glued to their devices, headphones on, oblivious. There was no grand announcement, no ticket check. People simply boarded. Even Olivia couldn't remember how she got there. One second she was scrolling through her phone in her apartment in Portland, Oregon, and the next she was sitting on a bench near the docks, with a bag she didn't remember packing and a printed itinerary that read, "Welcome to Grey Point Island. You are invited." The ferry ride was smooth. The sky was overcast. Fog hung low over the water like a curtain. The kind of fog that made everything sound quieter, softer, almost muffled. Some of the passengers tried to make small talk, but most of them kept to themselves. That was the first sign. By the time they reached the island, the fog had thickened. The captain, a quiet, wrinkled man in a long gray coat, said nothing. He just pointed them toward a wooden path that led into dense pine woods. The island had no dock, no signs, no buildings visible from shore. Just silence. And trees. Lots of trees. The path curved gently, lined with worn-out lanterns, none of which were lit. Olivia looked around for security cameras, staff, anything official, but there was nothing. The island didn't even have cell reception. Her phone had 1 bar of signal, but no internet. The GPS showed them floating in the middle of nowhere. Still, nobody turned back. The itinerary said, "Follow the path to the lodge. You'll know when you've arrived." So they did. It was a long walk. Maybe 20 minutes. Maybe more. Time felt weird there, slow and fast all at once. At some point the air started to hum. Well, like power lines buzzing overhead, except there were no wires. That's when they found the lodge. An old, sprawling wooden building nestled into the trees. It looked like something out of a winter resort brochure from the 1980s. Grand but dated. The doors were unlocked. A fire was already burning in the stone fireplace inside. A small sign on the front desk read, "Make yourself at home. Dinner at 7. Rooms assigned automatically." And below that, "Do not leave after sunset." Some of the guests laughed at the last line. Thought it was part of the experience. Olivia didn't laugh. She found her room, 104. Key already waiting on a hook. The door creaked when she opened it. The room was cozy, rustic, and cold. Colder than it should have been. But she unpacked, sat down on the bed, and started going through her things. That's when she noticed the photos. They were tucked inside a manila envelope. Old Polaroids. Dozens of them. Each photo showed a blurry figure standing in the woods. Sometimes alone. Sometimes surrounded by others. Faces smudged or scratched out completely. And then one that chilled her to the bone. It was her. In front of the lodge. Wearing the same clothes. Same backpack. But the sky in the photo was pitch black. Nighttime. She hadn't taken that photo. Neither had anyone else. She shoved the envelope into the drawer, tried to shake it off. Maybe a prank. Maybe a creepy, immersive horror vacation. People do that now, right? At dinner, everyone gathered in the main hall. Long table. Candles lit. A surprisingly good meal already set out. Chicken, vegetables, wine. Still no staff. No explanation. That's when it happened. One of the guests, Jason, a tall guy with a camera around his neck, stood up and asked, "Okay, seriously, what is this place? Who paid for this trip?" Silence. Everyone looked at each other. No one had paid. No one remembered booking it. Not clearly. A woman named Harper said she remembered clicking a weird ad on Instagram that said something like, "Tired of running? We have a place for you." Another guy, Lewis, swore he'd been on a Reddit thread about places that exist outside the system, and clicked something. It was different for everyone, but all roads led here. That night someone went missing. A girl named Bree. Her bag was still in her room. Lights on. Bed untouched. No one had seen her leave. They searched until midnight. No signs. The next morning 2 more people were gone. This time a couple. Their window was open. Footprints in the mud. But the weird part? The footprints didn't lead away. They ended. Mid-stride. like they'd been lifted off the ground. Vanished. Panic spread quickly. People screamed at each other, accused each other, tried to leave. But the path they came from? Gone. Not blocked. Gone. Trees where the trail had been. That's unmovable. Jason flew his drone overhead, tried to locate the shore. But the feed glitched, froze, then showed something impossible. A live shot of the group standing exactly where they were, except in the drone's feed they were all standing completely still. Not blinking, not breathing. Statues. Jason dropped the controller and vomited. No one slept that night. By day 3, 5 more people had vanished. And Olivia began hearing things. Voices. From the woods. Calling her name. Whispers through the vents. Soft knocks on her door at exactly 3:33 a.m. She stopped opening it. People began losing their memories, forgetting each other's names. Some even forgot who they were. One guy kept looking in mirrors and screaming that his reflection wasn't doing what he was doing. They smashed every mirror in the lodge, and still the reflection came back. The group dwindled. Fear turned into madness. Then one morning, Olivia found herself alone. Everyone gone. She wandered the halls for hours. Furniture decayed. Paint peeled. The fire was out. The entire lodge looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. Cobwebs. Dust. She found a room she hadn't seen before, 201. Door slightly open. Inside, a projector flickering. Old footage playing. Of her. Walking into the lodge. Turning. Smiling. Then disappearing into the woods. Endless loop. She tried to run. But the doors wouldn't open. Windows wouldn't break. She screamed for hours. Collapsed. And when she woke up, she was back in her apartment. In Portland. Like nothing happened. Except, her phone was filled with blurry pictures of the lodge. Of the people she met. Of herself, sleeping in room 104. She tried to call Harper. Lewis. Jason. No numbers saved. No record of them online. Even the island, Gray Point, had no Google results. Nothing. Except one post. An archived blog from 2011. Title, "My sister went to Gray Point. She never came back." Last line of the post, "They don't let you remember. But if you ever feel like you were somewhere you can't explain, run. Before they notice you're awake." That was 2 weeks ago. Now, Olivia's reflection smiles when she doesn't. The whispers are back. And every night at 3:33 a.m., someone knocks on her door. Last night, she opened it and saw her own face staring back.